I'm with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Yet again, we find ourselves mourning people killed by the U.S. war machine. The bombs and missiles that are raining down on Gaza right now are paid for by U.S. tax dollars. Instead of using money to meet people's needs, the U.S. government has shamefully extended Israel a long-term military aid agreement worth $38 billion. Since 1948, Israel has received more than $260 billion, mostly in military aid, plus $10 billion more from missile systems. The Party for Socialism and Liberation stands with the people of Palestine in their fight for freedom. Resistance to apartheid and fascist-type oppression is not a crime. It is the inevitable outcome for all people who demand self-determination rather than living with the boot heel of the oppressors on their necks. As a born and raised Jewish American, I stand with our Palestinian comrades. Along with other Jewish people that oppose that apartheid regime and its genocidal war, I am proof that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Despite the propaganda used to justify the intervention, Washington is not motivated by humanitarian concerns for Jewish lives. The U.S. government is propping up the most important proxy force that it has to maintain its control of the Middle East after that proxy's weaknesses were exposed by the ongoing and heroic Palestinian uprising. In 1944, a U.S. State Department memo refers to Middle Eastern oil as a, quote, stupendous source of strategic power and one of the greatest material prizes in world history. It was to grab this prize that in 1947, the U.S. helped push through the UN resolution partitioning Palestine into a Zionist state and an Arab one, giving the Zionist authorities control of 54% of the land when the Jewish settlers were only 1/3 of the population. Imperialist motivation for populating Israel with refugees from the Holocaust in Europe was not to provide a safe haven for Jewish people, but to use them to populate an imperialist outpost and to pit them against the indigenous population when needed. Palestinian people face an existential threat, and it is for their survival that their resistance organizations chose to launch a bold counteroffensive. It is a basic fact of history that any people who are subjected to an occupation will resist that occupation. It is also no surprise that when oppressed people rise up, like during Nat Turner's rebellion against slaveholders in the South, or Tenskwatawa's resistance to Governor Harrison's genocidal war against indigenous nations right here in Indiana, their resistance will not be perfectly controlled. The Israeli government is carrying out a bombardment of unbelievable proportions targeting Palestinians in an effort to take revenge on this resistance. The U.S. government is just as complicit in the massacre as Israel. Now is the time to mobilize and demand freedom for Palestine. The Party for Socialism and Liberation will continue to mourn for those lost at the hands of the U.S. as we continue to demand end all U.S. aid to the apartheid regime now. Free all political prisoners and free Palestine. Workers, rise up. We will see you in the streets. Thank you.
Free Palestine!